Welcome, everyone, to the Pulse of High Performance podcast. My name is Seth Davies. I am one of your hosts today. I'm joined by my business partner, Paul Campbell. We're coming to you from Atlanta, and I am very excited that today we have got a special guest on our podcast, Carroll Sams. Carroll is a longtime client and friend to Competitive Solutions, and I was going through his biography, his resume, and he's got a long list of accomplishments and experience with working with other companies. And Carroll, as I was going through it, I saw that there was two companies that we worked together on that you utilize process-based leadership to help create habit, discipline, and structure within your organization. So, Carroll, first off, welcome. And second, why don't you, instead of me telling everyone about you, why don't you just tell our audience a little bit about you and some of your experience as your longtime career in quality?
Okay, I'll do that. And Seth, thank you for allowing me this opportunity. I'm excited. This is my first podcast, so this is always exciting to do something new. Seems like back in my career, I was just, you made me think about starting out the first job, second job. Seemed like I was always called in to fix broken processes and systems. So most of the companies I'd go to work for had no documentation, weren't following their documentation. And I'll kind of share with you some examples there. So I'm a Six Sigma black belt. Got that through ASQ in 2008. I'm an American Society for Quality, a certified quality manager, certified quality engineer, certified quality auditor, a radiation safety officer with my environmental safety hat, a Shingo auditor. It's a behavioral auditing certification. I'm the chair of our local ASQ section, Carolina Greenwood section 1123. And Seth, you help us out there a lot. We absolutely appreciate that. I'm a senior member of ASQ since 1991. I firmly believe in that organization. They do great work in the quality field. Education, began my career studying architecture. I wanted to be an architect. So actually did that work for about 7 years. And I think one morning at 2 a.m, I went, I got to find another career. All these deadlines are crazy. One of my coworkers, he was my age. He had a heart attack. And I went, no, something else is in store for me. So I got into management science. I got a Bachelor of Science from Limestone University in management science. I found I was really adept at working with people. I like working with people and teams. So I've got a technical background and a management background. My first job was at McGraw Edison Power System Division. And I was a design draftsman there. The gas crisis hit, and this is kind of in the mid 70s, and had a big layoff. Most of the companies around here had layoffs then. And I found a job working at Davis and Floyd Engineers doing architectural engineering, civil drafting. And one of the last projects I had was relocating 3 medical device companies for Park Davis Company. And it was Realistic, Pope Brace, and Chick Medical. And the engineer there at Park Davis and I worked so well together, he offered me a position as a technical specialist back in their engineering department. And my main function there, and Park Davis was huge. They had about 900 employees, huge plant here. And it was mainly medical device, Band-Aids, diapers, underpads, but they started buying capital medical equipment. And he and I hit it off so well together, he offered me a position there and I accepted it. worked there for 11 years. And as you know, in your work career, you get promotions, and I was promoted to field service manager. And then I'll never forget this day. The boss called me and said, "I got good news and I got bad news." I said, "Okay, tell me the bad news first." He said, "We had to let the quality manager go today." This was 1987. And he said, "The good news is you're now the quality manager too." And so my background was I had studied Duran's problem solving methodology here at Piedmont Tech. And I utilized some of the basic quality tools of Pareto and Fishbone, but I was really good at diagnosing problems. And so uh, my work with the field service, capital equipment breaking out, around the country, and my new role of being over the quality management system for making the product really helped improve it. So 11 years later, love Park Davis. I was with Chick Medical at that time. They put us up for sale. And one of the companies that bought us was from Ohio, Midmark Corporation. And I went, gosh, this old Southern boy, can he really live in Ohio? Those winters are brutal. And a company that came to purchase us didn't buy us, MDT Diagnostic out of Charleston, but they needed a quality manager. So I had the option of going to Ohio, going to Charleston. I love golf. I ended up in Charleston. And I learned more there than I think I did at any other facility in about 4 years. When I walked in my office, it was bare other than a desk and a computer and a big cardboard box in the corner, kind of similar to what's in my office over there in the corner. It was all the documentation from the previous quality manager, all thrown into a box. So the first thing I did, I took the box to the dumpster. We had no procedures. We were manufacturing operating room lights, electrosurgical generators, dental chairs, all these medical devices, and we had no documentation. They had let the entire management staff go. So that's where I learned to start utilizing my skills to do documentation for companies.
So, Carroll, I want to pause you right there because that's a great segue. So the role of quality. So when you came into that organization, you're the quality manager. What's the role of quality in an organization like that when it comes to, documenting the processes around that?
Yeah, you need to. What I like to do, I follow the best practices, and the best practices, as far as I've found, are your ISO series, International Organization for Standardization series. Yep. Documentation. So, and because we were a medical device, we're regulated by the Food and Drug Administration. So you've got those requirements that you have to follow. So I based all the documentation on those international standards. And I got my first copy of ISO. It was first released in 87. I got my first copy in 89. So I've been studying the evolution of the ISO series since then. So it's basically conforming to the requirements that regulates your industry.
Okay.
Carroll, it sounds like it's a very long, interesting career. Some of it is, right, you're learning to learn quality on the job, right, thrown into the role, right, number one. Right. And some of it is you're learning through process, right, through your education out there. Now that you've gone through that kind of on the job, you've gone through education, you follow these standards out there, as you look at another company, what would you think is a good quality system, and how would you go about evaluating the company in terms of what they established?
Yeah, and I'll kind of go back to my role there at MDT Diagnostic. Our strategic intent was to purchase other medical device companies. So I was privileged enough to fly out with the team. We had a financial person, we had an operational person, and I represented the quality end. So I would audit their facility, and I would do a full quality management system audit, and I'd basically see where their weaknesses were and their gaps, and really look at the risks of, does it make business sense to buy this company? And what I'd usually find, because the companies were struggling, their engineering areas were usually backed up, sometimes years, in making changes to all their documentation. So that meant what they're producing in no way, shape, matter, or form matched what they should be producing, which caused, a variety of problems and issues with their companies.
So you would see a lot of disconnects. Engineering would be doing one thing, production would be doing the other. And then from a quality perspective, was the product meeting the quality standards that were set forth?
Right. And, as a quality manager, I can't do anything well if the design is incorrect. If that design is not correct on that manufacturing floor, I can inspect it all day long. I can put control systems in all day long. The customers are going to complain, on their end, because it doesn't perform as a robust design should.
One of the things that I've seen is, when in working with manufacturing organizations, sometimes quality's got to be the bad guy, right? They've got to say, look, even though you may have produced 100 parts, only 60, 65 are going to pass first time inspection. So from a quality perspective, a quality manager, is that difficult to have to be the bad guy sometimes, to say, look, just because you built it doesn't mean we can ship it?
It is difficult. I was thinking about some examples. Gosh, I've had so many recalls in my career. I remember the first one. It was with Chick Medical, right when I became a quality manager. I would get complaints because I was a field service manager. I would get the call from the operating room nurses, and I started seeing this trend of glass chips in open heart patients. This is crazy.
Wow.
What's going on? And when I did the root cause analysis, it was some inexpensive lenses that we had purchased from a Russian supplier. Hey, the price was great. The quality was totally substandard. And an interesting point on that recall, I had to trace, for the FDA, I had to trace every unit that we shipped around the world. I found one in Hollywood. Hollywood had purchased one of our mobile surgical lights, and I see it to this day in a lot of films. And I'll go, there's our Chick light. Look at that. See that orange light over there? We made that. I recalled it, and they never had it fixed.
Wow.
And one more quick example. So being the bad guy, and this one kind of goes into ethics, so I'm not going to say any names here on this one. Whenever we would reject parts, they would go to our material review board area, and I got a customer complaint, and it was the same thing I had rejected about 2 months ago, and I went, well, how did the customer get this nonconformity when I'd rejected them all here? And the shipping supervisor, who was a real troublemaker, didn't trust him. He came up after hours one day. We were talking. He said, I just want to let you know the plant manager got out. He's been shipping those bad parts at the bottom of pallets, unbeknownst to you. So here I am going, I can't prove it. This is second party, but our plant manager is pretty, I don't trust him. I always hold my wallet, So, it, it depends on the ethics and the people you work with too, Seth. And, that caused me a lot of grief and I really lost that customer because of it. They eventually just stopped every shipment coming in. And what can a quality guy do, when that happens? When the buck stops with the guy in the corner.
And I think, Carol, that's always the challenge, right? You've got a bottom line, which is going to drive most decisions, right, in organizations. And you've got a call center, right, which is how
Right.
most people are going to look at quality, right, out
Right.
there. And they're going to, a lot of times, unfortunately, override decisions that
Mm-hmm.
are in the best interest of the organization. So,
Yes.
I get it.
But and I get it taking those risks. You always take a risk. Well, the risk was we could lose the customer, and eventually we lost that customer due to that risk that he had taken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you lose enough of them, right, hopefully they'll wake up and understand that, listen, you're making the right decisions, right? You're giving the right guidance to the organization by doing these things.
Mm-hmm.
Every company that I've ever been to, they say, everyone is responsible for safety, and I believe that everyone is responsible for quality as well. So what does good look like in a company, Carroll, where the employees are aware of quality, and it's not just incumbent upon the quality department or the QA manager, but how do companies educate everyone about quality and what good looks like?
Yeah, and I've done it a few ways, but I think, and I didn't really talk about it, but I worked 11 years for Schlumberger, and they were a French-owned company, an excellent company. And one of the reasons they brought me in was to be a trainer for their TQM model. Every employee had to go through 2 days of total quality management training. And that's a W. Edwards Deming-based philosophy where everyone's responsible for quality. Quality starts at the top of the organization, and everyone supports it, understands it, is involved in it. We teach them basic problem solving steps to solving a problem. Train them in some of the basic problem solving tools, fishbone diagrams, Pareto, and then give them an actual project with data to actually solve. Teach them about quality costs, internal costs, external failure costs. That is really helpful. And then explain to them their role, how their role impacts the quality going to the customer. That's probably the key, to show them how what they do is important and give them specific examples.
So in your career, are there other companies? I mean, that's a great example right there about, a company like Schlumberger investing in their employees and teaching them about equality. In your career, are there other best practices on the same? Because I know you've got other companies you work for.
Yeah, I've got one right here at Piedmont Tech. And tomorrow is my second class. We teach PTC Lean. It's our own homegrown course to every new employee at Piedmont Tech. And it's a, it's a 10-hour course. They have to do a value stream map and an observation on a process. They have to then determine the value efficiency of that process, which is usually in the low percent, and then come up with starburst improvement actions and do a 5 why, and this is the reason for the non-value added activity. Come up with countermeasures, and then an action plan, an assignment of actions with a time frame, and a lot of these get reported to the president of the college. The ones that are really outstanding, the president allows them to present it to their leadership team, and it's based on Toyota Kata methodology. I'm the coach, and I try to teach other coaches to use this A3 problem-solving process. Best I've seen. Absolutely the best.
That's great. I mean, that's very interesting. You know, you think about your career and going through these different organizations. When you look at quality, how did you go about establishing the metrics you're going to measure within your organization, right? What are the right things to measure? You talked about
Yeah.
nonconformities, right?
Right.
Out there. What other things did you look at from a quality standpoint that made sense to help you gauge how that quality organization was performing?
You know, initially, if you walk into pretty much any company, you'll see safety, quality, delivery, cost.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the main metrics.
Yep.
And you know, they're at the top level. They're in the main lobby of the facility usually. But something I ran across with, I like to benchmark other industries. I've used medical device and environmental with hazard analysis, critical control point. That's been useful. But getting specific to your question, aerospace has a unique uh, auditing program, and it's called a PAIR assessment, PEAR, Process uh, Efficiency Evaluation Report. And in this type of auditing, the owner of the process identifies three KPIs that they're going to be responsible for charting, tracking, and improving, and then start measuring, to those KPIs, and have a goal for improvement. And then in the next audit, we would come back and evaluate how are they doing against their new identified KPIs. And that was something I implemented at a water manufacturer I worked at. And we made plumbing fittings, but we were using aerospace auditing metric processes. So it worked out real well because most of the areas had no metrics whatsoever, Paul, when I first did the initial audit. So, I helped them. I remember in engineering, I said, look, y'all do these red line improvements to our drawing specification. It's taking months to get all these done. Let's set a goal of we're your customers. We use these on the floor. Let's set a goal of 30 days. You're 60 now. Let's set a goal of 30. Let's see how you do.
Mm-hmm.
So that
a lot of organizations, right? They're looking at nonconformities, looking at CAPAs, they're looking at all these different things out there, right? And trying to determine. And some of it is understanding a lot of the data they report is after the fact, right?
Right.
It's not helping them understand what future implications are going on. I think a lot of organizations struggle with that, honestly.
Yeah, find out what's important to your customers, internal and external. Measure those.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Carroll, we got a question. This person's name is Will. He says that he's new to quality. What would you recommend to him for continuing education? How do you stay on top of current trends and certifications and so forth? What would you recommend to Will that he could do?
I'd recommend joining the American Society for Quality. It's not too expensive. Most times, almost 100% of the time, your company will pay for your membership. And in that, you get access to all their information on their website. You get a monthly quality progress magazine, and that is the new cutting edge topics that are evolving in quality. There's articles written by subject matter experts such as yourselves in there. Become a member of the ASQ, and if you've got a local section, go to their meetings because they usually have informative topics. In a 1 to 2 hour with a dinner, and it's a great way to learn and connect with others, and network.
And Carroll, there's another question that came in from Jim from New Jersey. One of the things that he was asking about was you talked about TCAM. Was it TQM, right? And in terms of everyone going through that process, right? Yes. Understanding quality, right? Creating a quality first kind of mindset out there. Are there other things an organization can do? Because a lot of times everyone is just heads down, right, on their business, right? How can people or heads up, so I can establish from a leadership perspective down that quality first mindset besides that.
Well, I'm thinking of a benchmark that we did once. We used an ERP system called QualPro, MFG Pro, for our facility. I met another quality manager at one of our ASQ meetings, and he mentioned that they used QualPro, and he had designed an employee suggestion system into their QualPro ERP system. And I went, I'm there. They made capacitors and transclosure housings. We made water meters, refined fuel meters, two totally separate businesses. So we didn't compete against each other. He let me benchmark how they did that. I came back. I had it flow charted. Our MFG Pro IT person put it in our system. All employees had access on their computer to QualPro. Now they had access to implementing employee suggestions to make improvements. That was, it's like the Japanese. Each employee there can generate probably 200 suggestions a year. Well, we need to make it easy for our employees to do it. We put a tracking system in place to make sure it was followed up on. I got a report every month of the status. Oh, it's just all kind of wonderful things came about from a employee suggestion program that worked. Not a box where you put a slip of paper in it. Don't waste your time. that's that's one example of how you can do it.
And that's great. I mean, you're right. A lot of those things it's a black hole. You ask people to put the suggestions in, and you may get 10 great suggestions, but if there's no process in place to follow up and give the people feedback and let them know we hear you, right? We may not choose to do what you're suggesting, but this is the reason why we're choosing not to do it, or we do choose to do it.
Exactly. You have to put the reason why in there. And sometimes these turned into project improvement teams because we had a Six Sigma project hopper process. It would go into our hopper because it was a cross-functional improvement opportunity.
That's great.
Carroll, how has quality changed today versus 20 years ago? I mean, what have you seen the technology and the changes in quality and reporting and documentation?
Oh gosh, so much going from paper to digital, definitely. At Schlumberger, in receiving an inspection, we had 22 file cabinets, 20 to 22 file cabinets full of historical inspection documentation. And so I hired an intern to work during the summer. We converted all that into digital, and then at the same time converted all our manual paperwork to all digital. And so, it's a conversion from paper to digital. It's also, a lot of the inspection tools are still being used from 50 years ago. However, the new KINTs, video measuring systems are more and more coming into play now. We had one at our plumbing manufacturer. We used it for one part, but it was a high volume part for it was an automotive application. It was actually for a braking system on a truck. So it had to be correct. Right. And but on the downside of that, it cost around $120,000 for that measuring system to measure one part. So there's some trade-offs there on this, new and improved technology. You have to make wise decisions in those purchases.
And there's the battle, right? There's the conversation that's always going to happen.
Now, and I'm also intrigued with machine learning and AI. That we had a speaker come by and talk to us at ASQ about. He worked for doing some work for Rolls-Royce, and the work he's doing, now anticipate when that engine is going to fail. They can anticipate which component on that engine is going to fail and when. So a lot of diagnostics, and he was just transitioning to the machining area, but that requires volumes of data input. Where do you get all these extra quality people to input all this data? You got to hire them. You got to justify hiring people that aren't producing product, and the payback. What's the ROI? You got to really sell that. You make some bad decisions, and it's like a general manager selecting the wrong quarterback for the NFL team. After a couple of times, you're out of there.
I think I know what team you're talking about.
Yeah, I just read about it. My old Clemson Tigers team.
There's a few teams like that, I think, unfortunately.
Yeah.
AI is obviously a topic that is big across all kinds of industries and what the implications are to that. But one of the things I wanted to follow up, you talked about, the question Will had asked about how would I go about learning about getting into quality, and ASQ is a good vehicle to understand. Take it to the next step is if I really want to progress in my career, right? I want to get to a management level. Yes. What are the things and what are the steps that you can recommend someone should go through to do that?
Yeah, I don't kind of fall back on the steps I took. I pursued the ASQ certification methodology. So they have these different bodies of knowledge, minimum bodies of knowledge. Let's say the first certification was a quality auditor. That's a relatively, in the great scheme of certifications, probably one of the easier ones to do. So I'd been trained to do auditing, so I had some experience in it. And so I obtained my auditor certification. Next, because I've been a quality manager for about a decade, I'm going to get my certified quality manager certification now. And I learned things that I thought I knew, but I didn't in that new body of knowledge. So that helped in my career. I got a raise every time I did it. So next, and this was more of a selfish thing. I would sometimes have a quality engineer, Paul, when I was hired in. After a while, they'd let the quality engineer go and go, nope, not rehiring that position. Still have to do the work. So I went, okay, I'm going to get my quality engineer certification. If I've got to do the work, I got to figure, I got to know what I'm doing. So to me, that's how you progress. And that's one way to do it is learn the additional skills that will help your company and help you, with pay and value.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's all about value, right? You bring it back to the organization.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, Carroll, in your career, when engineering was designing a new product, would they involve quality on the front end or on the back end? What does that look like? When does quality get involved in a project and developing a new product?
Yeah. We had a great system at Schlumberger. It was a gate system, very similar to what NASA uses. And it was an 8-stage gate system. Quality was involved up front, manufacturing, purchasing, even customer service. We had all those disciplines involved from day one. Health, safety, environmental was involved all up front. And so as you go through the design process and those steps, all of those too, of the gate process is based on the design and development module from ISO 9000 also. So it's based on that standard. And we would just follow those steps and everyone would be able to give their input. And we'd have check sheets where we had to check it and sign our name, that, hey, we were allowed to participate and we agree that the project is a go to the next phase. So no, getting involved up front is definitely the way to go. Now, in retrospect, I wish we'd have used more of Gino Taguchi's reliability design methodology in our processes. We didn't really talk about it, and we didn't utilize it. It was the old goalpost type of methodology: a minimum spec, a maximum spec. If it's in between, it's good. Well, the Taguchi model is more parabolic. You design to that target spec, just like Toyota does and Honda does. And that's why their transmissions and engines keep going and going and going. And you develop your tolerances too, based on statistical analysis, and not just kind of pulling out of the air.
Cal, you were talking about your career and going through this. Now, the next stage, right? You're helping the next generation begin to learn about all these great different tools out there. You were talking about the yellow belt and the green belt and the black belt earlier. Can you share with the audience a little bit about each of the belts and what the differentiation is between those, and how can they go about getting those?
Yeah. So you've got your introductory belt would be your yellow belt, and they recommend that. That's pretty much training for everyone in the company. That was similar to what we did with our TQM training. So it's ours at Tech is an 8-hour course, but that varies. They recommend to get your course certified, they recommend 20 hours, and it's pretty much the 7 basic quality tools that they take you through. It's histograms, fishbone diagrams, Pareto charts, check sheets, scatter diagrams, and just some basic SPC. So that's your yellow belt and the introduction to the terminology. The green belt, our program is 80 hours. The certification standard is only 35 hours, so ours is pretty in depth and detail. That you learn not only the 7 basic quality tools, but you learn the DMAIC process: define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. It's a different way to look at plan, do, study, act. The continuous improvement cycle, very similar. It's just broken down a little bit differently, just repackaged a little differently, and the use of more higher level statistical tools. And then lastly, you've got your black belt. Ours is around 63 hours. They recommend 95 hours to get your black belt certified. And that's higher level design of experiments, regression analysis, attribute gauge R&R, just really high level statistical addition in the black belt. And you have to do an actual project. The black belt, to get your certification, you have to do an actual finished project. And our projects on average around $132,000 in savings.
Wow.
Per student. Yeah.
Wow.
So fairly, it's fairly good program.
Yeah, that's great.
We were talking, Carroll, and I did, one of the things, COVID changed a lot of things, the pandemic, right? But one of the things that it's done is it's given people the ability to learn virtually, right? Learn online. And before we started the podcast, you were talking about how you're teaching people across the country on the various yellow belts, green belts, training on that. So how do people that are listening, how would they find you and sign up for your classes to get some of these certifications we're talking about?
Yeah, just go to our website, Piedmont Technical College. Just type in Piedmont Technical College, Greenwood, South Carolina, and you'll see our website. And in there, you'll see the course offerings, and you just click on that and just peruse the course offerings.
That's great. Hey, we're going to start to wrap up here, but one thing, Carroll, as we've talked, one word that I kept hearing from you and most of your statements was process, right? Yes. And quality is very process focused, and that's, kind of the backbone of our methodology of process-based leadership, right? Because the process gives you a desired, consistent result. And I think that's one of the reasons why you and I and our firm, our two organizations, or the organizations that you've been with, have worked together so well, is because our approach around metrics and accountability and process and communication gives that process that desired, consistent result. And that's the same with quality, right? Quality is all about process. We got to have process. We got to have that structure to make sure that we're not, to your point, we're not doing the goalpost, but the parabolic, right? And getting where we need to be.
And you're going to love this, Seth. I asked my boss yesterday, I said, Matt, are we winning or losing? What are your favorite things? And I've almost convinced him to start using the action register. I'm close. I got him using the agenda. Next is that action register. And he's got his form, but I really like your process there. Yeah. And don't blame the person. For all these new people here with us in quality, don't blame the person. Look at the system. Look at the process. Fix the process. Fix the system. Your employees will love you for it.
Right. Absolutely. Paul, closing comments, questions for Carroll on anything?
Carroll, no, this has been great. It's great understanding kind of your methodology around quality, your career, going through that. And I love the fact that you're actually using your experience to teach the next generation, right? Not a lot of people do that. And it's important to do that. So thank you for doing that.
You're welcome, Paul. And it's thank you guys at CSI too for all you do. We believe in your process here at Peabody Tech.
Thank you, Carroll. And thank you to everyone that's tuned in to our podcast today, The Pulse of High Performance. Our guest was Carroll Sams. Carroll's got an extensive career in quality and in manufacturing. And now he's, as Paul said, taking his talents and teaching others, teaching the next generations of people about quality, the importance of quality, and how to instill a culture of quality within your organization. So thanks for joining us, everyone. We will be back next Thursday at 12 Eastern, and we've got a great topic around education and data and metrics and the importance of that in hybrid schools, virtual school systems. So we look forward to next week's podcast. Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon.